Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World with me, John Jordan. So it's the start of a new month, and usually we do a most popular blockchain game graph. Unfortunately, DappRadar's data is down, has been down for the last couple of weeks, so we can't do anything across all the games at the moment. But I thought it'd be worth just having a look at what's going on with Pixels, which is obviously the most popular blockchain game, and there's been quite a lot of stuff going on there. So this is seems to be the same data. So this is from Footprint Analytics. Obviously, there's loads of different sort of blockchain data sources out there, and this is what we've sort of seen in previous months. Very strong growth from Pixels. So it peaked just over 1 million daily active unique wallets, although there is always some discussion about what daily active unique wallets means for each game. But anyway, in terms of the numbers, that's what happened. And as soon as that did happen, actually it dropped right down again in the middle of May, and then sort of came back up again to just under 1 million. But then what's happened at the end of June and the start, or sort of actually mid-June into July now, is quite a heavy drop off, picking back up again. So that's sort of the raw data. And we can sort of have a look at one of the sort of what's been going on. So there has been a sort of reason for this. This is Heidi. She's the community manager, and so they launched what they call Chapter 2, which is quite a big change in the game, and they're sort of changing a lot of the systems and iterating them and moving them around. So obviously, sort of having this big sort of change, some people like it, some people don't, and we can see at least what she's saying. So she's saying Chapter 2 has been a success so far. PlayStations and XP earned are way up. So there's this sort of idea about sort of XP and all this sort of stuff, and this is sort of the interesting bit. So initially, Chapter 2 broke all bots, which for the record we loved. We don't want bots either. Now new bots are emerging. So if we go back to sort of the data which I've pulled out onto my own graph here. So this is sort of the broad idea of the on-chain data we see about Pixels. There is other ways of looking at it in terms of what actually people are doing in the game. But anyway, this is sort of a high-level sort of view. Probably overestimates exactly what's going on. So we can see here the sort of the rise into 2024. The peak at over 1 million, drops back down again, goes up again. And obviously we've always known, and I've always sort of pointed out, that we don't really know how many bots are operating in the game, and any game, any blockchain game where value can be extracted is going to attract some level of bots. Some games have more bots than others. There's ways in which you can make your game less bottable, and in the case of what Heidi was saying there, that they're trying to make the game at least not be rewarding for bots. But we see this big. This is the sort of this is what we're looking at here. This big drop off here. So we go from about 900,000, actually goes pretty low, 250,000, and then starts to rise again. So we know, she said, we broke all the bots. So we can sort of assume that probably this drop here is dropping out the bots. So we can, possibly say 25% of the audience were sort of committed players, I guess. So it got up to this high level. They broke all the bots. The bots are coming back in again. So this sort of recovery, maybe the bots coming back in. The interesting thing, I don't actually have the data here, but if we look at all the other blockchain games, no other blockchain game is over 100,000 daily active unique wallets. So even if this is even if we sort of decrease this by 75%, this graph, shrink it down, Pixels is still the most popular blockchain game by a factor of 2. So that's that's sort of one of the takeaways. Is there's been a lot of bots in the system. A lot of the bots have gone away. It's probably going to go back up to about 500,000, I would think, over sort of July, August. There'll be some of those will be bots, because people will work out different ways of running bots, obviously, and different ways of getting rewards. But the sort of the key thing I'm taking away from this is actually let's take a historic look. So this is looking at going back to 2021, and this is the sort of data I've had knocking around, and this looks at 3 blockchain games. So in red here we have Alien World. So Alien World launched in 2021, had this big spike up here, almost 500,000 daily active unique wallets, and this is sort of in most cases this is sort of just like a tap, almost like a tap to earn game really. Has timers on it and stuff. But we always knew there's loads of bots in Alien Worlds. So it had these big peaks. It was the biggest blockchain game, and then Splinterlands came along, and again almost hit 500,000 daily active unique wallets in 2021. But then we can see sort of the trajectory since then also has some of these big drops. So we can see here in sort of early mid 2022, Splinterlands lost 68% of its audience pretty much overnight. Again, when it changed its reward structure, so it changed how if you were getting high on the leaderboard, winning games, it changed how the leaderboards worked. So people who weren't spending money buying sort of cool cards continually weren't able to get the rewards that they previously were. That was just a way of sort of forcing people and bots to invest more in their hands of cards to get the rewards. So we can see here, 68%. So it's sort of again like a 2/3 sort of number, and it drops right down again. Actually, sort of comes up, and then sort of for other reasons, I think, but maybe sometimes because of bots, has sort of faded away. Partly the game's been out for a long time now. Token price isn't doing all that well, and you sort of get rewarded in token. Token price is sort of quite a key economic sort of mechanic of these games. So there was that big drop. For Alien Worlds, it didn't drop so heavily. As in, I mean, there were these sort of volatile spikes at the start where they were sort of getting rid of bots. That was more like an anti-botting mechanic, but there was again a sort of a reward structure change here, and a sort of forcing, sort of looking at bots as well. And so late in 2023, sort of in a space of a couple of days, again it lost 43%. So not quite such a big drop, but again we have over a period, the game developer changes something. And over a short period of time, it loses a lot of audience. So we can sort of, we can just think of these. Clearly, bots are just things that come in and try and extract value. So people are spending money in terms of sort of server costs and stuff, trying to extract more money. And if you change the reward system so that the amount of rewards they can get is reduced, they obviously don't run those bots because they're losing money. So a similar thing here, actually. So Pixels is pretty much the same as Splinterlands, and dropped 69%. I mean, obviously these things, depending sort of exactly sort of what sort of days you're taking here, but that's roughly again 2/3. So we'll sort of see where it ends up, but to some degree we sort of see that Pixels, Alien Worlds, and Splinterlands have all come through the same trajectory. They've been the most popular game. A proportion of their audience has been bots because it's been economically viable for people to run these bots, however they are sort of organising them, and then the developer changes something, and over a short period of time, a lot of the audience goes away. So it seems sort of bigger in this sense because Pixels got to 1 million daily active unique wallets, and it sort of come back to 250,000, although back up to 400,000 now. So these things are dynamic, but in a sense, this is just what we see. People who are running bots don't care anything about games really. In this case, they're just sticking their sort of compute power, their bot power, into systems where they can extract the most amount of value. In this case, it happens to be games, and when the game becomes popular, then obviously that tends to attract people's attracts bots and attracts people to focus on. Well, that must be a good system. Lots of economic value in there to extract. Let's see what we can do. So obviously we don't tend to see it on smaller games, although sort of I think we have to assume every blockchain game to some degree has bots operating in it. So anyway, that was what I thought we would look at. Obviously, a pretty big drop. So it sort of takes Pixels back to sort of where it was. As I go back, takes Pixels back to sort of back where it was in March, which is actually not that many months ago. So it had this big sort of run up in Q2. And we'll sort of see where it ends up later on in the year. So anyway, that's the video for today. Thanks for watching. See you again soon.